It didn't matter where you were from, what you looked like, what you drove, and it doesn't matter. Every single person that ever talks about her just says, she is the kindest person I have ever met. She helped me with this, or she didn't even know me. And I was sitting at a table by myself in lunch, and she was the one that came up to me, made sure I felt comfortable. And I mean, we have story after story after story of her just huge, enormous, kind heart.
Hi, everybody. We are on a special episode of Luminol Podcast, and this is the episode that we have been telling you guys about 4 weeks, and we're really, really, really excited about it. Caitlin, do you want to explain kind of what's going on?
This is literally the most special episode we're ever going to do. So a few weeks ago, maybe a few months ago, we released a music themed episode, and Sarah covered the murder of Egypt Covington. And we had the amazing opportunity to talk to Egypt's brother, Dwayne, and his fiance, Lindsay, and they are with us right now. Dwayne and Lindsay, do you guys want to say hi?
Hi, guys.
Hello. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, our pleasure. We're so excited to have this opportunity anytime we can share Egypt's story is incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to tell our listeners, which we kind of gave them this heads up before, but also apologize to you guys again, because we did get a lot of the information incorrect in the case that we did on Egypt Covington. Most of that information that we got was from a television show called Crime Watch Daily, which we'll talk about later. But we are here to kind of get the facts straight and really look at actually what happened in Egypt's case, and then hopefully hear some updates for all of our listeners out there, and then what we can all do to help.
That's amazing.
Sounds
We're
wonderful.
so grateful that you guys are willing to, I guess, dig further into her case. And by no means at all was it your fault. I mean, you were reading and watching what was put out there, and it was earlier on in the case, and a lot has unfolded from there. So you were doing your job.
Yeah.
Lindsay, you're giving me like goosebumps.
Caitlin's smiling over here.
Is there anything you guys want to say before we jump into some questions?
Yeah, actually. So, listening to your podcast at first it just brought me back to when everything happened. And that is exactly what you would have thought happened, and that was what was put out there by Van Buren police and through the media. So that, it's not that you had your story wrong. It developed into that after digging into the case and asking questions and finding out what really went on. So
one of those things where that seems like the easy answer.
Yeah.
What we had said in the podcast episode, but the easy answer doesn't always mean it's the right answer.
Yeah,
that's right.
Alrighty. So first we'd like to start with talking about, and to our listeners too, if you guys haven't listened to that episode, please go back or look in the show notes and listen to it before you listen to this, because it won't make sense, because we're not going to go over the entire case start to finich like we did there, but just keep in mind the information's incorrect and then come back and listen to this. So to start off, I would like to ask who was Egypt as a person? Like, we'd love to just learn more about Egypt.
I'm going to let her brother answer that one.
Okay.
So Egypt, there's a lot of words that can describe her. She's such a vibrant person. If you're walking into the room and you see Egypt, she's going to smile right at you right away. Big smile. She was kind of a crowd pleaser. She wanted to make everybody happy. She appeared to just be so happy at all times, even if that wasn't true. She was not quiet. She loved to sing. She loved to express herself. She, in my opinion, I used to say she was kind of the hippie-ish one in the group, because she loved her yoga. She loved making her own essential oils. She'd play the guitar and, like I said, sing. So she's kind of a Zen person. But at the same time, on the other end, she was strong. She's strong, and she wouldn't take any crap.
I think you can swear on this podcast.
Yes, there's a fair bit of that, so don't mute yourself.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, just the type of person to light up a room. She would always do things for others. She was very unselfish.
And Egypt had many friends in every part of her life, from what we have discovered. And I think a lot of people knew that before her death, but it has really become apparent after her death. She has, right? Isn't that fair to say that she had her work friends, she had her yoga friends, she had her hanging out with the bar friends, and none of the groups really mixed. So is that fair to say?
What's the word?
Compartmentalized. There you go.
Yes.
Maybe you don't want to put that in there. So I just wanted to add that in too about her. That adds on to her beautiful personality, that she could get along with everybody. Anywhere she went, she immediately had a group of friends. And she had her karaoke people. People have reached out to us and they were like, I used to go to that bar just to listen to her karaoke, but they didn't know anybody else other than Egypt. And so, but Egypt of course knew them. So she was friends with everybody, which also is why a big reason why this is such a complicated case, because there's so many different.
She had a wide circle.
Yeah.
You can see that, I feel like, when you look at the pictures of Egypt, because there are pictures out there floating around, and she just has that big warm smile that you talked about.
Yeah,
and
I was just going to say that every picture I've seen of her, you can I'm like, I want to be her friend just looking at her picture. Like, you can just tell she's such a kind person by seeing her smile.
Yeah. So like I mentioned earlier in our episode that we did originally, we did rely heavily on the journalism, if you can call it that, done by Crime Watch Daily. And we want to talk to you about what was problematic about that. So what do you think were the most problematic things about Crime Watch Daily's coverage of Egypt's case?
No, I was going to let Lindsay go ahead and start with this one.
Well, a lot of it was they really, really pushed towards Kenny. And Kenny was Egypt's ex-boyfriend at the time. We have come to find out that there may have been a couple other exes out there as well. But pretty sure he was the most recent ex. And they put a ton of pressure on him, Crime Watch Daily did. And there was a lot of false information out there when they went to stop him at his house and talk to him in the driveway. And then they said that he already had a new girlfriend living in that house. Well, that wasn't his girlfriend. That was actually his sister that was living in the same house because that was their family's house. So,
yeah, of course.
So, I mean, and that's just one example of just how kind of off it was. Also going along with that is they talked about there was a big fight at one of their friends' wedding, and it ruined I don't think they used the word ruined, but that Egypt was trying to take the light away from her.
Like trying to steal the show
in
some kind of way?
Yes. Yeah, and because Kenny punched her. Well, the fact is that argument did in fact happen, but it happened in the hotel. And the police were, in fact, called. There is a police report. We have a copy of that police report. And it was someone at the front desk that called. So nobody else saw that argument. It was just between Egypt and Kenny and the front desk at the hotel. So it wasn't at the reception. It wasn't at the wedding. It didn't take away from anyone's wedding. So that was another thing. But it did in fact happen. What else, Dwayne?
So Crime Watch Daily, they specifically went on the whole fact of Kenny. They didn't look outside of that. They didn't direct any questions towards Van Buren Police Department where they came about these things. But
I feel like the other thing that Crime Watch Daily did, whether this was correct or incorrect, was they relied a lot on Curtis's testimony.
That's what I was going to bring up next.
Yeah, Egypt's boyfriend at the time. And I know that to our listeners, we've talked to Lindsay before about this and you guys about this, but it was kind of a very one-sided story, and stories are never one-sided.
Yeah, it was presented that if you watch that, there's no way you'd walk away not thinking that Kenny did it. For sure.
Exactly. And Curtis, and I mean, just to come out, like, be honest, we aren't trying to throw Curtis under the bus on this either. It just was really one-sided, and Curtis wasn't the perfect boyfriend either. And that's what Crime Watch Daily did not put out there. And we know that he did some things to Egypt as well. I don't have proof of it, so I can't. It is alleged. We have heard from multiple people that she would show up and have bruises, and it's alleged that they came from him. None of that is ever put out there. And again, Egypt was a tough girl, and we do know that Egypt would hold her own, and she wasn't afraid to, in quotes, fight. You know what I mean? Like, not punching each other, like going whatever, but fight back, push back, and to both of those guys, Kenny and Curtis. So we do also know that Kenny did a lot of his punching at walls, and he would throw things at walls and I personally haven't been told, and Dwayne, correct me if you've heard differently, that he has punched her directly.
No.
Pushed, we have heard. No bruises left by him. And you guys, by no means am I saying this is okay. It's a shitty thing to do. No woman should ever be touched negatively, poorly by a man. So no way in hell am I saying that what he did is okay. I'm just saying that both of them were abusive to her.
Well, and it wasn't the way that Crime Watch Daily made it appear. Like, Curtis was kind of an angel or like savior to Egypt, and then Kenny was like the horrible bad person. Like, they definitely made a narrative.
Yes. And that is why, from what we were told directly from the source, the reason that he got so mad at the Strawberry Fest that Kenny did was because he was mad because he knew how Curtis had treated Egypt. And he was mad that they were going to be moving in together and that she was going back to him again. Again, not saying that's right, but that's what we have been told.
But it also doesn't mean that they murdered someone or he murdered someone.
Exactly.
Like, it's not good, but that's not what that means.
Right. And it changes the narrative from he was just mad and angry and jealous and had a motive to he was upset that she was going back to someone who also hurt her.
Yeah, and really there was no motive. We're quite shocked that the police were able to get a search warrant the night that Egypt was found based on he punched holes in her wall. They had nothing on him. And with that, I mean, he gave his DNA, Curtis gave his DNA. They both did the exact same thing. They both gave everything that they were asked to give. The difference is that Kenny, a lot of people know him, and they were together. Kenny and Egypt were together on and off for a very long time. And so people knew when they would break up, like every other relationship, you go around and you're like, that asshole, he did this and this and this, and then the next week you're back together.
So I do want to add, so the reason I can see why all this came about, I'm gonna put a scenario out here that shows why Kenny was put under the bus right away. And family members didn't like the fact that he had done some of those things, punching holes in walls and whatnot. So they already had that in their minds that he did it right away. So when the family members put that out there and tell that to the police are going to roll with that. So it was kind of a domino effect. And, this is going to become a factor later on when we talk. My dad was in the township, was friends with the director of public safety, McNamara, the township supervisor, and many other people, the trustees and things like that. So you can see where an opinion would be expressed, and then the police department can roll with it. And it kind of just nails it down and says, okay, this is our guy. This is it.
Yeah.
And at that point, there wasn't any other searches for anybody else. There was no other scenario looked at. It was a tunnel vision effect that took place for